Hey guys, so I thought I'd just do a quick reading vlog, because I've not done one for a while, and there's a few things I've been reading that I thought would be worth catching you guys up on, especially because I'm not sure when my next video review is going to be out. So my main sort of book recently, I've been reading The Sword of Destiny, the second Witcher book, so I'll get onto that a bit more in a sec. I've nearly finished it actually. I've got one short story left, so I'm going to finish it today. So by the time this video is uploaded, I probably already would have finished it. But I also recently started listening to The Two Towers, the second Lord of the Rings book, after recently finishing The Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. So there's quite a lot to talk about here. For those excited about the Lovecraft stuff, I'm probably not going to talk about Mountains of Madness too much, just because I feel like I don't know if I have enough to say about that one story. I feel like I'm maybe going to group some Lovecraft together and do a separate video. But anyway, for now, we'll start off with Sword of Destiny. If you've seen my Last Wish review, you'll see that I didn't love that book as much as I was hoping to. I'm a huge fan of the Witcher 3 video game, and my friend has been telling me to read the books, and with the show coming out, I was like, yeah, all right, I'll read The Last Wish. To sum up quickly what I said in that review, I really like the world and the characters, but the sort of disjointed short story format really kind of took me out of the book. And I think that's more of a personal preference thing, because some people love short stories, but I love big epic novels. So I felt like I kept stopping and starting, and I found it really difficult to get a real momentum and like just flow through the book like I would with a larger fantasy book. I was optimistic about The Sword of Destiny because my friend told me that the stories are in chronological order this time, instead of just being random scattered stories like The Last Wish. But also there's a lot more Dandelion, Yennefer, and most importantly, you get introduced to Ciri in this book. So yeah, I was looking forward to this. Honestly, when I started it, which is a few weeks ago now, I was expecting to power through it in about a week or so. I was really struggling to get into the first short story. It was a longer one, about 80 pages or so. I did really like that Yennefer is in it, and basically every exchange between Geralt and Yennefer was fascinating, and I loved that. But the actual story of like hunting the golden dragon and everything, it was a bit much for me. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's like ridiculous to have dragons in the Witcher world or whatever. That's fine. But the story it didn't grip me. It just seemed silly, and it just seemed like an excuse to put Yen and Geralt on a mission together. And so honestly, I kind of like put the book down for a bit after that. I was just struggling to find motivation to get through it. I was like, oh, I'll pick up another day and power through it. So I kind of made a vow this week that I was gonna blast through Sword of Destiny, because I really want to read Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. And I read the second short story, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more. The second short story has Yen and Geralt together as like an item. To be honest, not much happens in the story itself. It's mostly just about Geralt and Yen's relationship, which I think is why I enjoyed it so much, because like I'm a big character-driven reader, so when the characters get time to just interact with one another and like build their relationships, that makes me more invested in the book, and it makes storylines like hunting dragons more exciting because there's more personal stakes there. And so I'm just going to go full spoilers in this video, because like I'll do spoiler-free in my review. Moments like when Yennefer and Geralt were hanging off the bridge near death, obviously I knew they weren't going to die, but like moments like that meant more to me than, you know, the flashier we're going to fight this monster kind of moments. And yeah, actually, that's maybe funny enough, one of my biggest weaknesses about Sword of Destiny. The Last Wish, like I wasn't keen on the lack of continuity and like story building, but the actual stories of Geralt going to fight monsters and doing the stuff were really, really good. And I feel like the monsters are maybe the weak part of this book. But the relationships are built far better. Now, like The Last Wish, these stories some are better than others as you go through them. So I'm not going to go through every single story. But I did really enjoy the presence of Dandelion and Yen. And the most recent story I read this morning was The Sword of Destiny, which is where Geralt meets Ciri. And this is my favourite Witcher story so far. I thought it was infinitely better than The Last Wish, which actually I was a bit disappointed by, if I'm honest. Again, I liked it because of the Yen and Geralt stuff. But the story didn't really grip me. But the Sword of Destiny short story actually had everything that I've just been saying I wanted from a Witcher story. Well, apart from, funny enough, there was no Yennefer or Dandelion in it, but that was fine because they're in like the whole book, and this needed to be about Geralt and Ciri. Geralt goes into this elven wood, which is under dispute. Like, humans want to chop down trees and hunt animals, and the elves are trying to protect their way of life very, very violently. And Geralt goes as an envoy to the elves to try and broker a peace. But the important part is that whilst they're going through the woods, they find this little girl, Ciri, and it links back to a story from The Last Wish. And, if you're not worried about spoilers, I'm sure you know all about Ciri. She was just such a charming character, and I think they built her up really well from this character that, I know from the video games, but it's a completely different character going back to when she's a kid. And seeing Geralt develop these kind of like fatherly instincts and like really want to protect Ciri, I just loved it. And I thought both sides, both the world building and magical exploration of the elves and their home and their customs, as well as the character building and this ultimate progression for Geralt. Like, he has a direction now. And you know what? I think ultimately that's the best praise I can give the Sword of Destiny. Just Sword of Destiny. Is that it kind of slowly but surely steers the Witcher series into a direction, and it has like a kind of idea of where it's going now. And I really, really rate it for that. I still got one more story left, so I feel a bit uncomfortable giving it like a final star review, because I'll probably do a full video. But I'm a bit torn between giving it a 3-star like The Last Wish or a 4-star. I think I'll decide after this last story. If this last story impresses me, then I'll give it a 4-star. But like I said, I wasn't really happy with like the first story of the book. But yeah, I'm hopeful because my friend, I've got 2 friends that are reading the Witcher books, and they've both been encouraging me to carry on. And I've always said to them, like, I'm looking forward to the full novels, and they're both ahead of me now. One of them's reading Blood of Elves, and one of them's even further than that. It's on like book 5 or 6 or something. And they're both telling me that the full novels are awesome. So I'm really happy that that's the next step for me, because it means I can stop complaining about short stories and stop just giving my like personal dislike for a book full of short stories and just enjoy the Witcher world, or hopefully anyway. But yeah, I think for the most part, I've got a pretty positive vibe about Sword of Destiny now. Started out not being huge on it, but I'm really looking forward to carrying on the series, and I'm really looking forward to the TV series as well, which I might even like do some videos on. I don't know. I'm always promising to do videos and stuff that I never get around to, so we'll see. So yeah, I'm gonna briefly talk about the Mountains of Madness, actually. H.P. Lovecraft is a bit of a strange author for me, because I got into him indirectly through George R. R. Martin's writing. I was watching lots of YouTube videos about like the lore and stuff of Westeros and Essos, because it just really fascinates me. Particularly Ideas of Ice and Fire is a great channel if you're interested in that sort of stuff. And he's always talking about the links to H.P. Lovecraft, so I felt like I should check out his work. And I have some issues with Lovecraft. Like, I remember trying to read it a while back and not really following it that well, because it's very description heavy and not really, the characters don't really matter, but that's kind of like the whole point of Lovecraft's ethos. But I found that I enjoyed the stories a lot more when I listened to them in audiobook format. At first through YouTube, there's a channel called Horror Babble, which adapts a lot of Lovecraft stories, so if you're interested in that, check that out. But later when I got Audible, I just decided as one of my months to get the complete H.P. Lovecraft. It's over 50 hours of content, and I don't feel pressured to listen to it all at once. I listen to a short story, and then I listen to At the Mountains of Madness. I did really enjoy The Mountains of Madness. It's very slow starting. It's very similar to the first Lovecraft story I listened to, and my favourite so far, which is The Nameless City, which is where an explorer kind of goes into like this ancient city and just discovers all this civilization that died eons ago. But obviously it has that Lovecraftian horror and just makes you feel really insignificant and that you're this tiny blip on this infinite cosmos of life. The Mountains of Madness essentially does that same idea, but on a bigger scale. It's about a range into the Arctic, and one of their camps is attacked, and they go deeper into the mountains and discover loads of like historical treasures and like, you know, evidence of like dead ancient beings and the old ones, and they go much more into Lovecraftian lore and even talk a lot about like the Necronomicon, and about like Azeroth and like a lot of this stuff. Listening to it, there's definitely a lot of stuff that went over my head, and I feel like I'm gonna have to either re-listen to it in the future or maybe just sit down and read the book. But yeah, I did enjoy it, and yeah, I guess this is why I said I didn't want to promise anyone that I'm going to be talking about Mountains of Madness too much, because it's basically all I've got to say. I really like Lovecraft's like vibe and tone and world building, but I'm not always the biggest fan of his actual writing style. So I'm going to do more Lovecraft in the future because I really love his ideas. I'll probably eventually do a video, but I'll probably cram a few things together, or if a story in particular really hits me, maybe do that. Like I might just focus on The Nameless City. But yeah, I once I finished The Mountains of Madness, I couldn't really sort of sit there and go, I'm going to listen to another big Lovecraft story, because I was quite desperate to get back to The Lord of the Rings, which brings me to The Two Towers. Again, I listened to this in audiobook format, but I thought I'd get this as a little prop. So you can see it's in much better condition than my Fellowship of the Ring copy, because I never got through the Fellowship of the Ring when I was in primary school, and I didn't look after my books very well in primary school. So this is actually not too bad considering I've had it since I was about 7 or something. I was a little nervous going in. If you watch my vlog where I talk about the Fellowship of the Ring, I struggled through like the first half of that. I'm not a huge fan of Tolkien's writing style, and I thought it was very slow and I wasn't massively into it. But then once I got to the Council of Elrond in particular, like when they meet Aragorn, everything gets better, but the Council of Elrond was just phenomenal. Like I just suddenly understood why people prefer these to the films, which is how I grew up with The Lord of the Rings. But I remember really struggling through The Two Towers more than any of them when I was a kid. For the life of me, I don't understand why now, because I've listened to like the first 4 or 5 chapters, and I'm absolutely loving it. Like I'm always finding excuses to listen to it for 10-15 minutes here and there while I'm cooking or just cleaning up a bit or something. Let's just throw on some Two Towers. First 2 chapters are all Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli stuff, which is just so fun. They're just hunting down the Uruk-hai. Although most are just refers to them as orcs in this, but there are definitely Uruk-hai there. And then we get the Merry and Pippin chapters, which leads to Treebeard, who, like, I've just been enjoying every second of him. He reminds me a lot of, like, a Tom Bombadil kind of character, but just infinitely less silly. Like, I moaned a lot about Bombadil in a previous video, and, like, I know a lot of fans really love him, and there are parts that I like to his character, but he's just so silly. Like, his chapters are just full of songs, which I've never been like huge on. And then a lot of his chapters are just basically describing, oh, look how beautiful Goldberry is. We'll talk about that for 3 pages. Again, not that Goldberry's like a bad character or anything. It's just I feel like they're focusing on the wrong elements of a character. Again, this was written in a really different time. But yeah, with Treebeard, like he has that kind of ancient knowledge, and he's a completely different kind of being. Like he's not really relatable directly to like Merry and Pippin, and they don't understand each other, and they're learning from each other, and that's really fascinating. But he's also just got this charming innocence about him, in that like he's probably one of the oldest creatures in Middle Earth at this time, and yet he has this sort of childlike demeanor. He's so like upbeat like a lot of the time, and when he does feel pain and feel sorrow about Saruman and what he's doing to Fangorn Forest, it just hits all that much harder. And I just think Treebeard of all the sort of magical and otherworldly creatures that have been introduced in the Lord of the Rings so far, I think he's definitely my favourite. I always liked him in the films, but I think I'm enjoying him even more in the books. So yeah, I'm pretty early on in the Two Towers, so I've not got like a ton more to say about it. Other than like, I can't wait to carry on with it, and I'll probably do another reading vlog where I talk about it in the future. So yeah, I mean, I guess that pretty much covers everything. Like I said, I've not done one of these videos for a while, so there was a lot to catch up on. If you haven't seen my Season of Sanderson video, go check that out, because I've got a lot of my plans for what I'm going to be reading in the upcoming months. Because as soon as I finish Sword of Destiny today, I'm going to be reading Starsight, and then I'm going to be diving right into a reread of Mistborn: The Final Empire and the rest of the Mistborn trilogy, and eventually the Cosmere in general. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.